So let's talk about another wolf in sheep clothing. I don't even know if you call this dude an officer, but let's just call him disgraced Officer Gerard Schaefer. He's a convicted serial killer who was murdered in prison in the state of Florida. This one is a little bit more gruesome, and it just shows you that until somebody ultimately does something, nobody does anything. You have to do everything and anything. If your kids are a victim, if your kids say anything, you have to go after that motherfucker at all costs. Don't wait for anybody to do anything. Go through every system, every channel, and do everything possible to protect your kids. Because the second these motherfuckers, you think you have them, they get out or they get away with it, they go after those same victims or similar victims and offend over and over again until they get caught, and then they want to change policy. So let's get back to it. Schaefer, who was born in Florida, became an officer for the Martin County Sheriff Department, where his first crime that he was convicted for was 2 teenagers were hitchhiking, and he was in the squad car, pulled them over, took them to the woods, tied them to a tree, and told them if they do anything or say anything, he's gonna kill them or have somebody come over there and do the worst to him. As he was torturing them, he got a call, an emergency call, that if he didn't go to, they were gonna find where he was, so he left immediately after threatening them. Well, this dumbass piece of shit leaves those girls there. Thank God they escape, and the closest police station they get to is his. They tell him exactly what happened. The officers immediately lock him up. Well, guess what? This piece of shit is out in 2 weeks on bond. While waiting trial on bond for the case with the 2 teenagers for false imprisonment, that's it. That's all he was waiting for, is when he killed his first 2 known victims. 2 teenagers, their bodies were found less than 6 miles away from where he kidnapped and tortured those 2 teenagers that survived. He was arrested and held with no bond for these 2 murders. In prison, after raiding his house, they linked him to over 32 murders, all of vulnerable women, thrill kills. They found bone fragments, just drawings that he did that only he could know of the crime, just so much heinous trophies, just the most gruesome shit you could imagine. Well, this was a little bit before DNA and cameras everywhere, so without the exact physical evidence, they were able to link him to 3 murders and gave him a plea that would save him from going to the death house. Of course, he's a coward, so he took it. They raided another house and property where they linked him to at least 13 murders for sure. He tried to make the best of it in prison, writing books. Even one of his groupies was an author who he fell in love with, and they wrote books talking about how great he was and how he was framed. And then they had a falling out. He tried to get her killed. She exposed him, said she doesn't know how she fell in love with him, and she just couldn't believe it, and exposed him for the coward, liar, and serial killer that he is. Well, before anybody could ever interview him again, guess what? Schaefer was found brutally stabbed to death in Florida prison. FSP, Florida State Prison to be exact. Sound like a familiar place? He was stabbed 42 times in the face, chest, stomach, and bled out for over 72 minutes. Now, that's how it goes. You kill innocent women, you do these heinous crimes, you're gonna get killed, tortured, and the worst to happen to you in prison. And he had groupies, he had the interviews going on for him. But as you could see, as time went on, and that mask came off, and he couldn't move like he wanted to, and he was no longer around vulnerable women, but men that were filled with rage, that he was the bottom of the hierarchy of a violent, fueled world. And the sick thing about it is during his entire rise and all the killings, he was a teacher, got fired He was a cop at Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, got fired for stalking women. Ultimately got fired for the false imprisonment on the 2 teenagers. It took him to be on bond and kill those 2 women for anything to happen. Another officer, coach, doctor, whatever it may be. But as we see in my Wolf in Sheep Clothing documentaries, that it's always the ones you never expect, and they get away with it over and over. And when they go to prison, they act like they're these meek little victims, that they're the victims, that they got mistried and they're being framed, and it's the police, and all these groupies get behind them, and then they get murdered in prison, and everybody realizes, what the fuck was I doing? That's what it is. Always listen to your kids. Always protect them. Watch them. I don't care how crazy you look. Whatever they try to paint you out to be, never stop believing your kids, going to war for your kids, because it's these creeps that take advantage of people that are too scared or don't want to look a certain way or don't want to stir any feathers. Fuck that. Go to war for your kids time and time again. It's the only way you'll get results, because it's those creep-ass neighbors and coaches and doctors and officers that take advantage of what they do. And they see somebody that's in a bad relationship or getting out of a bad relationship. Oh, your man don't come around, or this don't happen. And they commit the most heinous acts. Sometimes they get caught, but the people are too scared to turn them in because they think they're going to get in trouble. Fuck that. Go to war for them. And even if you're not good with your partner, tell them what happened. You make sure you get this motherfucker hit up in the worst way possible by the law. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, once again, it took the murder of 2 innocent people for them to say, damn, we got to get this guy off the street. And unfortunately, it had to be the inmates that carried out the ultimate justice. Fuck him. Stay out, stay free. Us.